And good evening to our fellow listeners and followers. Tonight is Monday, July 29th at 8:38 p.m. This is Federico Lyons of States Rights Radio and
Seth Hancock of Seth Hancock Reports. And tonight's episode, a whopping $35 trillion in debt, and no one has a solution to stop it. And it is not a coup if the chief executive remains in power. So yeah, we just had the news last week. The U.S. national debt has officially reached $35 trillion. Congratulations, America. The spending never stops, and we have no party that is trying to do anything about it. And that's the sad reality we live in. We just need to, all we can do right now as observers is expose this and say, hey, prepare for what might be coming, because this system can't keep going this way. It's going to collapse at some point. I don't know when, but it has to.
Yeah, no, it's a sad state of affairs where, the debt keeps climbing and people keep searching for the government to answer and how to serve the economy and build the economy. And, as Seth pointed out a few minutes earlier, it is not the government who creates economy. It's free enterprise, it's freedom of citizens and consumers. So this idea that we are looking for the government to help us and set interest rates or not set interest rates, or set the inflation or leave it deflation, it's not part of what the government does, and neither party has done otherwise to stop it or anything like that. So it's very unnerving to see that.
Yeah, and obviously, we all know that the Democrats have never acted like they really care about the debt. Bill Clinton actually worked with the Republican Congress to kind of slow the debt. We had a surplus in there, but this is what just bothers me the most is the Republican Party that I used to be a proud member of. And, the reason I no longer associate with them is because they're liars. They're hypocrites. They make loud statements about being for limited government, and then they do the opposite. And, at least I guess I could say they're being a little more honest with their platform this year. They're not at all attempting to describe themselves as limited government. So maybe I have a little respect for them not lying anymore, but it is a big government platform. And I found a piece, Liberty Sentinel, from Alex Newman, who, went through how social conservatives have been thrown under the bus with the platform, but he also touched on the economic stuff. And he wrote that it enshrines support for many of the most expensive programs that have produced estimated unfunded liabilities for U.S. taxpayers approaching $200 trillion. $200 trillion enshrined into the Republican platform. And you think that's going to make America great again? I got some property to sell you somewhere that doesn't exist. It's just nonsense.
Well, you mentioned Bill Clinton and when he worked with the Republicans in the U.S. Congress, and that's when the Republicans gained control in '94, and with Contract with America, the Republicans. It was a great working majority working with the Democrat president. And again, I've always said it, and I'll keep saying it, that, in order to have a good balance, I think that's the perfect balance. A Democrat or liberal president and a conservative Congress, mainly Republican. But you're going to end up with more conservative legislation and helping the economy than not helping the economy, and God knows what. So, but Bill Clinton left. I think he left with a $5 trillion in debt, and it was around $4 to $5 trillion. That's because, the Congress left the second largest surplus in U.S. history. Then, of course, came W. Bush, and he wasted that surplus into stupid, unconstitutional wars and earmark spending all across America. So, it's sad that, even in 2024, after the GOP adopted their platform, they did not have in their platform anything to save on spending or have a limit on spending or taxation. And, there again, there is no difference between those two now, between Republican and Democrat. There is no difference. It's the same political party here and there. And, for a political party that, don't want to encourage that kind of scares me, because Democrats are going to protect the 16th Amendment and the Federal Reserve to the heart. And as I mentioned earlier before we came on to Sav, it was Republicans who passed the 16th Amendment and the Federal Reserve and the Revenue Act of 1913 and the 17th Amendment. Democrats opposed all that, and now it's the other way around. And that's the hypocrisy of this two-party system, that they were once in favor of something, but now they're against it. But nowadays they're not really in favor or against the 16th, because they live off that. So and one last point I want to make is that please don't fall for these tidbit phrases of audit the Fed, abolish the Fed, tax cuts, tax reform, balanced budget, term limits, because they're just tidbit phrases for campaign season. They don't mean anything. The real phrases is repeal 16, repeal 17, and with that you can repeal the Federal Reserve Act and the Revenue Act of 1913. But they're not going to say, because they're in bed with that. They got their mouth in that teat. So, it's very sad to see both parties embrace that hypocrisy, and it's like joining together in forces to live off the 16th and the and all the spending that they will pass. So it's unfortunate, but that's why I will probably abstain for general election, because I'm not going to vote for any party that supports spending and taxation, which they claim they don't, but they do. And I don't care what's their rating on the American Tax Reform or National Taxpayers Union, they are still scoundrels for supporting the 16th Amendment.
Yeah, and if you look at the GOP platform, it basically has 20 planks on it, and they're all basically statements with no substance. Like one of them says, the third plank is end inflation and make America affordable again. Which I'm just like, hey guys, Donald Trump is talking about he wants negative interest rates. This is insane. If people don't understand what that means, that we are going to be in Weimar Republic with negative interest rates. I mean, negative interest rates also mean that you lose money when you put your money in the bank. It's because we are so wedded to a debt-based society. It's disgusting. This is, and it's not just that it's bad for us, bad for the economy. It's immoral. It's immoral to promote a debt-based economy. We should value savers, people who save up their money and buy things when they can afford it, not people who go into debt so they can have everything they want now. It's insane. Then you got things like Trump wants to turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower and stop outsourcing, which, I believe we should have more manufacturing here. But the problem is that the government can't just do this. The problem is that we are asking the government to do it. The government's the problem. We need less government. Stop, making these lofty goals that you have no power to do, and start shutting down every single government agency that's unconstitutional, which is practically every one of them. And then you get things like demolish the foreign drug cartels. You want to know what a good solution to that is? And the drug war. The drug war is the reason we have these drug cartels. It's the, prohibition is the reason we have the mob. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. What do you mean rebuild cities? This is not a federal authority. People in their own cities can rebuild their own cities. This is not the federal government's purview. This whole thing is just big government. Big government. Keep men out of women's sports. Folks, do you understand the government being involved in athletic? Please tell me where in the Constitution it says athletics are a right and that the government must act on it. I mean, this is nonsense. Nobody values liberty anymore. Nobody values actual government that stays within its constitutional confines. This is the problem. And the GOP is going to be just as horrendous as the current Democrat administration. I refuse to call the inflation Biden-inflation, like all the Republicans call it Biden-inflation. Are you telling me the CARES Act had nothing to do with it? We got to stop the lying. We got to stop the hypocrisy. We need to start having a real conversation about how we shut down the government.
Yeah, how we shut down the government, like we did in '95, which was beautiful. I mean, the government shutdowns of 2013 and 2017 and 18 and 19 and so on were just pitiful because, Trump would open up, they were not really that, they were really fast to open up because he sold out to open up the federal government. We need to really, every time when I lived in D.C. and I had to commute and the government shutdown happened, I was like, oh, great, less people on the road, the traffic, beautiful, let's keep it shut down. Yeah, let's keep it shut down. Government is no use to us. As one of our interviewee, Don Jeffries, said, is that this is the only country where we pay into a system that we don't get anything in return. So what really, are we looking for? But then, the Democrats and the media to the left, they like to interview the cafeteria lady at the Library of Congress or at the Ford building or at one of the government buildings, and the sob story that they won't be working. Okay, well, I'm sure that McDonald's will be hiring or any other restaurant chain will be hiring. I know why they don't, they want to collect the government check and government pension, and that's fine dandy, but not on my dime. So I'm sure many restaurants are hiring for a cook or whatever. So, the sob stories don't help. And, for the GOP, and then one thing I want to bring up, and then I want to bring up a crazy story, but, the GOP platform said is that they want to help rebuild all cities of America.
I'm not completely sure about that.
But I thought that was one of the platforms to help rebuild cities in America.
Yeah. I thought you said citizens. Sorry.
Oh no, cities. That's just insane. That's whatever happened to the state local governments? What happened to the state government of Illinois in Springfield? Are they gonna let federal funding come into, which they probably do already, but that's not the responsibility of the national government and for the Republican Party to propose that. That's just insane and beyond unconstitutional. I bet probably Donald Trump will be the first one at the bridge in Baltimore trying to persuade all the people that he's going to save that bridge and they're going to name it after him or one of his daughters or her son. So this is very sad to see the federal government behave like this, and then people cheering on that is up. It's like, we want to be dependent. We don't want to be sovereign. We don't want to be independent. We want to be dependent, and that's just sad that this is happening. But I mean, it's how what both parties dream and all that. So I just can't believe that's what the majority of people think and want. That they want to be dependent. They don't want to have a self-respect, self-worth, and be independent in their life. That they want to have somebody take control, and that's why we live the government that we're in, and the country we're in right now. That we are now dependent of a central governance. And as Seth said, we need to get rid of these agencies and all that. So. I see no win for either party because it shouldn't keep doing it. But a friend of mine posted something on Facebook saying that he wants to relieve the burden of state taxation. This is something that people don't realize, that states have plenary power of taxation. It's federal direct taxation that I have a problem with. So instead of focusing on a small state sales tax or whatever tax proposed by the state or county, propose to repeal the federal taxation amendment that is killing and crumbling our economy. That's what people need to focus on. But I can rest assured that my best friend is probably going to be with open arms from his congressional delegation accepting federal funds into his state, because that's the mentality that we are right now, folks. We're the mentality of a dependent federal government, and it's sad. It's really sad that we haven't really changed that. So keep this in mind. States have the power to tax whatever it can. States have plenary power, according to Pollock versus Farmers Trust. It's the federal government that has no power in direct taxation, and if they do, it's got to be according to census. But you can't compare Chicago to Los Angeles. You can't compare Denver to Chicago because there's two different census populations. So yet again, the federal government has no authority to do this.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about taxes, we need to talk about spending first, because we're never going to be able to actually reduce taxes and actually get rid of the IRS and repeal the 16th if we keep being dependent on the government doing all this stuff. This is the problem. The government, I remember, Ron Paul in 2012 was asked if he would end the IRS, and his response at first was immediately, and then he went on to say, but we need to change our ideas of what government is there for before we can do that, because as long as we want a warfare state, a welfare state, as long as we want the government doing everything, we want the government to control the economy, we want them to control everything, well, they need to tax us. So we need to get the government cut down to its constitutional confines. And that requires people to desire liberty and independence. And, we look at, again, this platform is promising to save and protect Social Security and Medicare. Oh, isn't that great? The great Republican Party that says we will never be a socialist nation while they're supporting socialist systems. This is insanity. You can't protect Social Security and Medicare. They're Ponzi schemes. They are going to go bankrupt at some point. And you can keep the facade going for some time, which they have been for a while, but it is a Ponzi scheme. It will collapse at some point. It is immoral for us to keep this going and put it on the backs of future citizens who haven't even been born yet. That's what we're doing. And I'm all for having a conversation of how do we get rid of these programs with doing as little harm to retirees right now. But we have to understand that these programs need to be shut down. And here we have the Republican Party promising to protect socialist programs. I just, the hypocrisy knows no end. It disgusts me.
Well, I mean, it's now a Republican platform, but Governor DeSantis and Nikki Haley both said in the campaign trail that they want to protect Social Security and Medicare. And you're right. These two programs, I don't think they need to be shut down. They need to be privatized. They need to be given back to the individual citizen and let them deal with it. Let them deal with however they want to deal with their retirement funds. If they want to put it in a bank and save it, that's fine. But it should be their money. It's their money. It's my money. Every time I see my paycheck and taken out of Social Security, that's my money. That's my money going God nowhere to probably the bridge up in Baltimore or some speed train from Springfield to Chicago or LA to Vegas or infrastructure spending. And as Seth put it, those type of programs, the Social Security, is a Ponzi scheme. They're collecting money in, but being spent somewhere else. This is what Bernie Madoff was doing, for God's sakes. And, Bernie Madoff collapsed. This is going to collapse no matter what. So, but again, both parties want to protect him. So, I remember when George W. Bush, he said it in 2005's State of the Union address that he wanted to privatize Social Security, and all the Democrats, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, went out to the FDR statue and took pictures with FDR and their hashtag Protect Social Security and all that crap. I mean, now I see Donald Trump kissing up to FDR statue up there in D.C. because I see no difference in either party. I really don't. And this goes all the way back to Herbert Hoover, the biggest progressive socialist Republican, and then comes FDR, who's a Democrat socialist. So I see no difference in either party. And Ronald Reagan, as much as people like Ronald Reagan, I know Seth, you sometimes agree with Ronald Reagan, and I'll respect your opinion and I'll defend your opinion. But Ronald Reagan didn't save 1 inch of government spending. He spent it all. He spent it on Wall Street. He spent it on the defense. He wasn't a conservative conservationist. He was a spender. The same thing with George Herbert Walker Bush and George W. Bush and Donald Trump. So, this is an ongoing fiasco moving forward that it's not going to end here, and it won't end, I don't know when. But it's, maybe we won't see it in my lifetime when this collapses. Maybe the United States will not be in existence when I'm dead. But, the thing is that, we're heading to a collapse here, and people better wake up.
Yeah, and you need to actually look at these people that you're supporting, and like you said, I still have fond thoughts about Ronald Reagan, but I agree. I would have. I obviously wasn't old enough to vote back then. I was born in '83, but knowing what I know now, I would have voted for Ron Paul when he was a Libertarian candidate in 1984, because Ronald Reagan did not do what he said. I still have fond memories of Reagan because he actually did have a lot of great speeches about liberty and about limited government. So I look at him as far different than Donald Trump in that aspect, because Donald Trump has never talked about liberty. He's never talked about the Constitution. He's never talked about limited government. It's a sad place where we're at, and that Donald Trump gets compared to Reagan, who at least gave good speeches. At least said, more often than not, he was saying things I agreed with, whereas Donald Trump is on all sides of every issue. He's never had any principles, so he's never expressed any principles. And what he's promising us is big government. And, and you can believe him when he promises big government, because that's exactly what he did in his first term.
Yeah, it's on the Republican ticket, it's very sad. On the Democrat ticket, Joseph Biden pulled an LBJ, and people have been saying that it was a coup, that, Pelosi and Obama and Schumer got together and ousted Biden of power, and now he's not running again. I mean, Biden is still the president, so I don't see where the coup would take place. I didn't see armed troops marched across the Potomac into the White House and forced the president to be deposed and removed. I mean, he's still there. He just didn't want to run for re-election again. So LBJ did it. Is that also considered a coup? Andrew Johnson didn't run for a term. He just finished out Lincoln's term. Does that make it a coup? So, it's these, people that like to reinvent words, like the woke movement, for no apparent reason. And I think, it's just people like to reinvent words to fit their own narrative. But, look at the definition of what a coup is. A coup, I'll tell you where would a coup really take place? In Venezuela right now. That's the only place that I would see a coup take place, to get rid of Maduro, but I don't know if that's ever going to happen. But a coup here in the States, I mean, I've never seen it, and quite frankly, I don't think the Constitution will even allow it.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's another issue where you can tell that people aren't being honest, because, before Biden announced he was dropping out, the Republicans were talking about how it's mean to let him run, because it's wrong to even let Joe Biden run, because he's clearly not capable of doing the job, and he's physically not capable, he's mentally not capable, he's too old. And then they get rid of him, and he's now not running. And now it was, this is horrible. How do you get him to not run? This is a coup. It just exposes it's all a game to these people. It's not a coup. We don't know exactly what it is, because, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't know and we'll never know about. I can assure you that I do not believe Nancy Pelosi or Barack Obama are the ones pulling the strings. They are puppets too. I mean, the puppet masters of this country are people we don't even know. I mean, people need to understand that it's not. But this is what politics does. Is they create a boogeyman. Donald Trump's the boogeyman to the left. Barack Obama is the boogeyman to the right, or we take Anthony Fauci is the boogeyman now, even though conservatives loved Anthony Fauci when we were first locked down, but now they hate him. It's the system itself is designed for all the politicians to be puppets, to obey their bureaucratic masters and their donors and the donor class. This wasn't a coup. It is not all that normal. We don't see this too often, but it's not unheard of. Like Federico said, the LBJ. But we just need to stop following the political games and start preparing for what could be tough times ahead. I really think there are going to be tough times ahead. It doesn't matter which one of these criminals wins the election. the dollar is going down. It just is, and I don't know when, but it has to. I believe in economic laws that says $35 trillion in debt. It's not sustainable. It's going to die at some point. And so, when we're talking about the coup, the potential coup of Joe Biden, well, you know what? It's just theater. It's theater, and we need to stop being distracted by the theater.
Yeah, you're right. It is theater. And, one thing that I want to point out is that, I always said that I think with Joe Biden in the race, the Electoral College will probably pick him as the winner. So I think Democrats should have just wheeled him into the State of the Union address, wheeled him out back to the White House, wheel him in, and then let him win his second term, and then have him resign, and then Kamala Harris will be president. But right now, with Kamala Harris running as president, she'll probably be the nominee for the DNC. She's got the most delegates now. It's going to be a tougher battle for her to win. So I don't know if this was but yet again, there's the ignorance of both parties that they don't realize that the Electoral College will pick the winner. And so I think Biden would have been an easy winner. And, Kamala Harris was going to have a tough time because I think, she's going to have to win Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania is the key. I think Ohio will go for Democrats, for the Democratic presidential candidate. All the Great Lakes will probably go for DNC, for Kamala Harris. Florida will definitely go for Trump because, you got Governor DeSantis with the Florida legislature who's Republican. Georgia will probably go for Kamala. Arizona, I'm not too sure. I don't know what is the buildup of the state legislature there in Arizona. But I know they have a Democrat governor. I don't know. I think the Republicans have the majority, so that may be tough. So that's another key state. Arizona and Pennsylvania are going to be key states for her. But with Biden, I think he would have won re-election easily because the Electoral College favored him, and they like to favor old geezers. So as they wheeled in Strom Thurmond to the Senate chamber, or Jesse Helms, or Ted Kennedy, or Robert Byrd. They should have just wheeled Joe Biden in and let him, resign in the second term, and then let Kamala Harris be the president for the second term. But it's gonna be I think it's gonna be a tough end. So this whole thing, it's not a coup. It was just a stupid thing by Democrats. Gonna be making it more difficult for Kamala Harris. So it's definitely not a coup, but I think it was a stupid act of fall. I think they should have just let him run and be there, but I don't know what your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And this is my conspiracy theory. That I think Trump is tapped to be reinstalled as president, and I think he's going to be, again, this is just how I feel. I don't have any proofs to back it up, but I think Trump's going to be reinstalled, and I think he's going to be the one to usher in central bank digital currencies. Because, the thing is, they have these secret agendas, these hidden agendas to destroy our liberties that, the politicians don't talk much about. They might say something here or there. And they need the Democrat and Republican pendulum. They need you stuck in this left-right divide where you think you got your guys on your side and the other side is against you. And I think central bank digital currencies are the next step of their agenda because, like we've been talking about, the dollar is going to die at some point, and so they're going to need that central bank digital currency to be ready to take its place. And, Donald Trump is talking a big game. He was just at some cryptocurrency conference where he was talking about he'll never let CBDCs in and all that stuff. But if you actually go back to 2019, Jared Kushner and Steve Mnuchin were working behind the scenes to get CBDCs, get the ball rolling on it. And so what Trump really is, in my opinion, this is just my theory, He is a master brander. You know, Donald Trump is actually not that great of a businessman. I mean, if people know how many casinos he's owned that went bankrupt, it's insane. But he is very good at branding and rebranding. Donald Trump, I think, is going to be used to rebrand CBDCs. He's going to say, this is not CBDCs, even though it is. And that's the plan. That's my thoughts on that. You know, it's like 15-minute cities. A lot of conservatives have kind of woken up to these plans for 15-minute cities. And Donald Trump comes out and starts talking about freedom cities. So Donald Trump's rebranding something conservatives don't like, the 15-minute cities. But when Donald Trump says freedom cities, oh, great, freedom. We love freedom. And they don't even question it. And that's my thoughts. I think Donald Trump is tapped to be reinstated, reinstalled, whatever. And he's going to be used to implement CBDCs. So if that happens, you can call me a genius in a couple of years. If it doesn't, just forget what I said.
Well, I mean, you know, I see your point, and you're right. I think I did see him at the cryptocurrency conference, and I know he's really tapping for that. But, I mean, you know, we'll see. I don't know if the Electoral College is going to give him that second win if they didn't give it to him in 2020. And Kamala Harris, who is also a big puppet of the DNC and a big puppet of the establishment, even though she says she's not, but she's like the female version of Barack Obama. It wouldn't surprise me that also Kamala Harris would also start regulating a cryptocurrency. It wouldn't surprise me. Because Democrats are like that. They will pass this sort of stuff, and it wouldn't surprise them. And then, of course, the right wing movement will say, "Oh my God, how dare she?" And then, you know, they'll forget that Trump tried to do that same. So, I mean, I still think that, you know, whether Biden or Kamala, it's going to be a tough fight with Kamala Harris to get that win. I think it's going to be between Pennsylvania and Arizona with that win. But it wouldn't surprise me if Kamala Harris will come out and support a cryptocurrency central banking system. And remember, Donald Trump has always said he is, but yet again, he'll back out. And, you know, in his first term, he did a lot of things that really angered his base. And that's why I don't see Donald Trump doing that, because he will probably back out, because he likes to back out. He doesn't like to face his policies, his platform. So, well, I mean, you know, we still got 100 days to go. We'll see how it goes. We'll see who the VP nominee is for Harris. People say it's the senator from Arizona. I don't know if it's going to be Josh Shapiro. I don't think it's going to be Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Because number one, he's a Hebrew man, and you know we saw what happened with Joe Lieberman, so I don't think he's gonna be one. He's gonna be so. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting campaign season. We'll see the DNC convention this in August in a matter of weeks, and well, it's just a matter to see. But as Seth and I always point out, that I have no interest in this anymore until they can really go back to restoring the Constitution, giving us good candidates to run elections on issues, not personalities. And by the way, RFK Jr. is no great person either. So I'm not gonna vote for that person either. But you know, until then, I mean, we'll see. But I really have no faith in either of them, because they're super unpredictable. If the Supreme Court is unpredictable, these two presidential candidates are way, way unpredictable. Trump says one thing, then he'll back out. Kamala says one thing, then she'll back out, or she'll do it, and she'll anger her base. He'll anger his base. So we have become into an age of unpredictability that's very scary. And we really need to stop that, because we cannot be unpredictable at all. We have to say we have to be what is. We have to say what we mean and mean it, and you know, and that's that. You know, just you can't go back and forth like a ping pong table, like a ping pong. So, that's in my last 2 cents. I think we really, need to watch out and, stop watching this sense of unpredictability, because that's really scary. And I hope that people are serious in their casting their ballots, as abstaining, but serious.
Yeah, and just don't get too distracted by the theater, because that's what it is. It's theater. It's it's just that, the calls for, this politician or that politician is going to make America great again. They're going to give us this, give us that. No, we need to start preparing and preparing to resist the tyranny. We need to resist all unconstitutional mandates, all unconstitutional laws, and we need to seek independence. And it doesn't matter who wins. We can have independence for ourselves if we focus on our own lives and take accountability on our own lives. Stop looking for political saviors. It's never going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, Seth. And I hope that people do listen. And, God willing. But we will catch you not this next Sunday, but probably the following Sunday. We'll be back, and have yourself a great week ahead, and have a good night.
Good night.